My friends, there is a flame that must be kept alight within each of us, not one that burns out of control, but one that endures, steady and sure. It is not the fire of rage, nor of ambition without direction. It is the fire of purpose, of inner clarity, of a will that does not waver when storms rise. The world outside us will never be still. It will provoke, it will tempt, it will test. But this need not disturb us. For the essence of strength is not in conquering others, but in commanding oneself. When the winds of misfortune howl, the strong do not curse the wind, they adjust their sails. When insult strikes, they do not lash out. They remain grounded, for their dignity is not borrowed from others' opinions. To have fire within is to possess resolve. It is to choose the right even when it is hard. It is to know what one values and to live by it quietly, consistently, without drama. To have calm without is not to be passive, but to be unmoved by things that do not matter. Insults, delays, losses, these are the weather of life. They pass. But character endures. Let others chase applause or tremble at every shadow. You choose stillness. Choose integrity. The fire in your chest is yours alone. Tend to it. Do not allow the world to blow it out or to stoke it into blind fury. Let it warm you, not consume you. In times of conflict, remain unshaken. In times of triumph, remain humble. Your peace is not indifference, but discipline. Your calm is not weakness, but control. When others lose their heads, let yours remain high. When others drift with every current, be the rock beneath the waves. Remember, you are not what happens to you. You are how you choose to meet it. You are not your anger. You are the master of it. You are not your fears. You are the one who walks forward despite them. Keep the fire alive. Keep your surface still. That is the way of strength. That is the way of peace. Thank you. The fire within is not a blaze of recklessness or an uncontrolled surge of emotion. It is a disciplined, steady flame that represents one's commitment to live with purpose, clarity, and self-control. This inner fire is not loud, not boastful, and certainly not volatile. It burns quietly, yet with intensity, illuminating the path one has chosen with intention. It is the force that drives one to rise each day with a sense of direction, to speak when necessary with courage, and to remain silent when restraint is wiser. This fire does not seek external validation. It draws its energy from within, from a personal alignment with reason, values, and chosen principles. To possess such a fire is to know what truly matters. It means no longer chasing every fleeting desire or being pulled in every direction by the chaos of the world. The person with a fire within does not need to be told what to value, because they have already determined what is worth their energy and what is not. Their actions, therefore, are not impulsive but grounded in reflection. Their decisions are not made to impress but to stay true to something deeper. This internal conviction acts as a compass in all things, especially when the road becomes unclear or burdened with distraction. This fire is born from understanding and discipline. It cannot be inherited or bought. It is cultivated in solitude, tested in adversity, and refined through time. There are moments in life when all external supports vanish, when applause fades, allies leave, or fortune turns. And in these moments, what remains is what lives inside. The person who has tended to their inner fire does not collapse in such times, for they have never leaned fully on what is external. Their strength comes not from their surroundings, but from the unshakable will forge quietly in moments of honest self-examination and repeated effort. When challenges arise, the fire within does not erupt into fury. Instead, it becomes a silent motivator, reminding one of the path chosen and the reasons behind it. It says, "I continue, not because it is easy, but because it is right." This fire drives perseverance, not aggression, determination, not ego. It is not concerned with whether the world recognizes its heat. It exists to warm the soul of its bearer, to sustain them through hardship and temptation alike. To carry such a fire is to become less dependent on praise or approval. It is to act rightly without needing an audience. The individual with this fire speaks with authenticity, not performance. They walk into each day with intention, not simply reaction. When others are scattered, burned out from trying to be everything to everyone, the one with the fire within remains whole. Their focus is not a product of force, but of alignment. Their energy flows in one direction because they have chosen to live by design, not by drift. There is also a quiet humility in this fire. It does not scream, "Look at me." It says, "I know who I am." It allows a person to serve, to lead, to endure without theatrics. It gives the strength to admit when one is wrong and the courage to change when necessary. It empowers one to speak truthfully, to remain firm without being hard, and to pursue growth without arrogance. Such fire is not about dominating others or winning every battle. It is about showing up fully every day, with conviction rooted in something deeper than mood or circumstance. It shapes the person into someone not only capable of withstanding life's trials, but worthy of its responsibilities. It is the quiet force that sustains the steady soul. To appear calm on the outside while holding a strong fire within is not a contradiction, it is mastery. Calmness on the surface is not a mask for indifference or weakness, but the visible expression of deep internal control. It is the stillness that comes when one has examined their emotions, understood their impulses, and chosen not to be ruled by them. This calm is not something that arises from avoiding difficulty or escaping emotion, but from confronting them fully and then placing them where they belong, under the governance of reason. The one who is calm without has first done the hard work within. They have met their fear, their anger, their desire for approval or dominance, and they have chosen to let none of these govern their actions. Such a person may feel deeply frustration, disappointment, even pain, but they are not scattered by these forces. They do not lash out when insulted, do not crumble when misunderstood, and do not boast when praised. Their expression remains composed, their voice steady, their hands sure. This composure is not pretended, it is the product of choosing discipline over indulgence, reflection over reaction. To remain calm in the presence of provocation is not to ignore injustice or become numb to life. It is to act with clarity rather than chaos. The calm person knows that energy misdirected is energy wasted. They conserve their strength, not out of cowardice but out of wisdom. When others are quick to anger or panic, they remain still because they understand that emotions are not emergencies. They feel them, acknowledge them, but do not allow them to dictate their behavior. They wait until thought has returned, until perspective is restored. Then they move not hastily but with deliberate force. This outer calm is a gift not only to the self but to those around. It becomes a grounding presence in times of confusion. When tempers flare, when the group is shaken, when chaos threatens to take control, the calm one anchors the room, not with grand speeches or dominating gestures, but with simple steadiness. Their silence is reassuring. Their slow breath is a signal of control. They teach others not with advice, but with example, that panic is not necessary, that fear does not need to be obeyed, and that stillness is a source of strength. There is also courage in remaining calm. It is often easier to yell, to argue, to show one's agitation as a form of power. But the calm person understands that control is power. They do not need to win the argument in order to win their peace. They are not concerned with appearing dominant. They are concerned with remaining aligned to their principles. Their calmness protects their dignity. It shields their judgment. It gives them space to act with wisdom rather than impulse. This is not passivity. It is intentional restraint. To be calm on the outside while fire burns within is to have integrated one's emotions rather than suppressed them. There is no need to pretend that the fire is not there. The fire is real. It gives direction, passion, courage, but it is contained. It is mastered. This is why the calm without can be trusted. It is not fragile. It does not shatter at the first blow. It has been tempered by practice, by difficulty, by the daily challenge of holding the line between action and reaction. This calm is not something that can be faked for long. Pretended stillness eventually cracks under pressure. True outer calm is the echo of inner clarity. It is the consequence of repeated decisions to let reason. It is the habit of choosing focus over frenzy, of knowing that one's peace is not dependent on external conditions. The calm person has decided again and again not to be ruled by the noise outside or the storms within. They have claimed their mind as their own and learned to dwell in it like a well-ordered home. Life offers no promise of smooth roads or gentle weather. Challenges are not anomalies. They are constants. Delays, losses, betrayals, and disappointments will come, not because life is unfair, but because life is life. The person who expects ease will be broken by resistance, but the one who understands the nature of existence learns to endure. Stoic endurance is not grim survival. It is not dull submission to fate. It is the conscious decision to respond to hardship with virtue rather than reaction. It is meeting what comes not with bitterness but with strength drawn from clarity. To endure rather than react is to choose the long path of mastery over the short release of emotion. Reaction is quick, often satisfying in the moment. It speaks before listening. It strikes before thinking. But it also binds the individual to external forces. A reactive person is not in control of their life. They are puppets to each event, their strings pulled by praise or insult, by gain or loss. Endurance, on the other hand, is the power to remain who you are regardless of what happens. It is not numbness, it is stability. It is the refusal to be transformed by every blow that lands, every word that wounds, every plan that falters. The enduring person meets difficulty as a test, not as an offense. When insulted, they see an opportunity to practice patience. When denied, they find a chance to strengthen their will. They are not pleased by pain, but they are not broken by it either. They do not spend time asking why the obstacle has come, but rather how to meet it with wisdom. They understand that life is not arranged for comfort, but for growth, and that the path to virtue is paved with challenge. To endure is not to wait passively for the storm to end. It is to walk through the storm with eyes open and head held steady. This endurance requires preparation. It is not something one stumbles into. It must be built daily through the practice of reflection and self-restraint. The one who trains their mind to stay calm during minor discomforts builds the strength to face greater trials. They learn to observe their own thoughts before obeying them. They train themselves to sit with discomfort without immediately trying to escape it. In doing so, they discover that what once seemed unbearable can be carried. That much of suffering comes not from events themselves, but from our resistance to them, from the belief that we should be exempt. To endure is to develop inner silence, the kind that does not need to argue with every injustice or explain every feeling. It is the strength to walk away without bitterness, to remain kind when others are cruel, to maintain purpose when the road turns steep. The enduring soul does not ask for an easier journey. They ask only to be made stronger. Each trial is accepted not with despair, but with the recognition that the self is being refined, that what is hard now will become habit later. Endurance creates depth. It digs the roots of character so deep that no wind can uproot them. Endurance also means remaining faithful to one's principles, even when they bring no reward. It is easy to be honest when honesty is applauded, or to be brave when bravery is admired. But the real test comes when virtue costs something, when truth leads to rejection, when patience earns no gratitude, when loyalty goes unnoticed. The enduring person acts rightly not because it is convenient, but because it is who they are. They are not negotiating with life, offering goodness only when it is returned. They endure because they have chosen to live by what they value, and nothing outside of them has the power to shake that choice. There is a quiet power in this endurance. It does not seek attention. It does not require witnesses. It simply holds the line, day after day, moment by moment. It allows the individual to remain whole when circumstances attempt to fracture them. It is not the absence of pain, but the refusal to be ruled by it. Where others fall into despair, the one who endures continues, not because it is easy, but because they have trained themselves to walk forward no matter the terrain. Character is the foundation upon which everything else is built. While circumstances come and go, and while fortune may rise or fall, the one constant that remains within our control is how we choose to respond. Who you are matters more than what happens to you. Events may shake your world, but they cannot shake your principles unless you allow them to. A person rooted in character meets both success and failure with the same integrity. They do not become arrogant in moments of triumph, nor do they become bitter when faced with loss. Their sense of self is not a mirror reflecting the world, but a compass pointing toward what is right, regardless of the weather outside. To build a life on character is to choose consistency over convenience. It is to live not according to mood, but according to values. The one who depends on favorable conditions to act with honor has no true stability. They are good only when it suits them, kind only when it is easy, honest only when it costs nothing. But character is revealed when conditions are unfavorable, when pressure mounts, when no one is watching. In these moments, the real self steps forward. It is then that the depth of one's commitment is tested. Those who have cultivated character do not ask whether it is worth doing the right thing. They simply do it, What happens to us is never fully in our power. Illness, betrayal, misfortune, and injustice can come uninvited. But our response, our bearing, and our mindset remain our domain. No one can take from us the freedom to choose our attitude. The wise do not waste their energy in trying to control the uncontrollable. Instead, they devote themselves to what they can always influence: the quality of their thoughts, the integrity of their actions, the discipline of their desires. They understand that external events do not define them. Their character does. This understanding creates resilience. When others are thrown off course by every disappointment or inflamed by every insult, the person of character stays the course. They are not immune to pain, but they are not defeated by it. They may feel sorrow, but they do not become it. They may face setbacks, but they do not abandon their principles to escape difficulty. In fact, the deeper the challenge, the greater the opportunity to refine one's character. Adversity becomes the forge in which strength, patience, humility, and courage are shaped. Character also brings peace. When one lives in harmony with their values, there is no need for constant self-justification, no need to wear masks or maintain lies. The person of character rests easy, knowing they have acted with integrity. Their peace is not the result of external quiet, but of internal alignment. They do not suffer the inner conflict that comes from betrayal of the self. They have chosen their way and they walk it, not to impress others, but because it is the way they believe is worth walking. In this way, character becomes freedom. A person who knows who they are cannot be manipulated by praise or threatened by blame. They are not for sale. They do not chase every trend or bend with every wind. They may listen, may learn, may grow, but they do not compromise the essence of who they are for momentary gain. Their inner dignity is not negotiable. This gives them a kind of invincibility, not in the sense of being untouchable, but in the sense of being unshakable. Such a person becomes trustworthy, not because they never fall, but because they rise without excuse. They take responsibility for their actions, speak truth even when it costs, and extend respect even to those who do not return it. They do not seek to be seen as good. They seek to be good. They do not wait for the world to validate their choices. Their conscience is their guide. Their measure of success is inner fidelity, and their reward is self-respect. Emotional control is not about denying the existence of emotions or pretending they do not affect us. It is about understanding that emotions are powerful forces which, if left unchecked, can lead us away from reason, away from virtue, and away from clarity. To master emotion is not to become cold, but to become wise. It is to acknowledge fear, anger, desire, and sorrow as natural reactions, but not to surrender the reins of our lives to them. True power lies not in being untouched by emotion, but in being unmoved by its chaos when making decisions that require a steady mind. Anger can feel like strength, but more often it is a loss of control disguised as power. The person who lashes out believes they are asserting dominance, when in truth they are being ruled by their own agitation. The person who is calm in the face of provocation is the one who holds the real strength. They have taken the moment between feeling and reaction and filled it with awareness. They do not act blindly. They do not allow others to dictate their behavior. Their strength is in restraint, not in aggression. They understand that every emotion invites a response, but not every invitation needs to be accepted. Fear, too, has its place. It alerts us to danger, prompts caution, and can even keep us safe. But when allowed to govern our actions, fear becomes a tyrant. It narrows the mind, clouds judgment, and robs us of courage. The person who has mastered their fear does not claim to feel none, but rather chooses to act according to reason, even while fear is present. They do not allow fear to make their decisions for them. They take it into account, weigh it, and move forward with clarity. Courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to act rightly in spite of it. Desire can also be a source of disorder. The longing for praise, power, pleasure, recognition can tempt even the disciplined mind. The moment we let desire dictate our choices, we place our peace in the hands of things beyond our control. The wise do not suppress all desires, but they choose which desires are worth their energy. They train themselves to want what aligns with virtue, not merely what brings gratification. They resist the pull of indulgence, not because they reject joy, but because they understand that ungoverned desire leads to restlessness and regret. The one who rules their emotions is not empty. They are full of purpose. Their steadiness is not a lack of feeling, but a presence of clarity. They have taken time to know themselves, to study the patterns of their inner world, to pause before reacting, to reflect before speaking. They know that emotional impulses often pass like weather, and that reacting too quickly can create consequences that linger long after the feeling is gone. So they wait. They observe, they respond from a place of intention, not instinct. This kind of power is quiet. It does not announce itself. It is not loud or dramatic. It shows itself in the way a person speaks with calm in a room full of noise, in the way they hold their center while others lose theirs. It appears in the ability to apologize without defensiveness, to forgive without bitterness, to listen without preparing to attack. Emotional control allows a person to lead, to serve, and to endure with balance. It is the armor that protects peace and the discipline that protects character. To possess this control is to be truly free. No one can manipulate the person who chooses their response with care. They are not dragged around by mood swings or the emotions of others. They do not shift their values based on how they feel in the moment. Their stability creates trust in themselves and from others. In every situation, whether joyful or painful, they remain themselves. That is the strength of emotional mastery, to feel deeply but to choose wisely. The mind is a battlefield, and its condition determines the shape of our life. In a world filled with noise, temptation, fear, and confusion, clarity of mind becomes a rare and priceless possession. To guard the mind is to defend one's most sacred ground. It is not simply about avoiding negative thoughts or suppressing emotion. It is about developing the discipline to examine what enters, what stays, and what guides our attention. Just as a fortress remains secure only when its gates are watched, the mind remains sovereign only when one becomes vigilant over the thoughts that are allowed to take root. Clarity does not come naturally in a chaotic world. It is not handed down by chance or granted by circumstance. It must be cultivated with effort, with reflection, and with consistent pruning of what is unnecessary, harmful, or false. The undisciplined mind is like a field overgrown with weeds, full of noise, self-deception, and reaction. It jumps from thought to thought, distracted by every pleasure, disturbed by every insult, overwhelmed by every fear. The disciplined mind, by contrast, is calm, focused, and sharp. It is not immune to the noise of the world, but it refuses to be enslaved by it. It makes space for wisdom and silence, for thought and restraint. To guard the mind is to question every impulse and examine every belief. It is the ability to pause before reacting, to ask, is this true? Is this useful? Does this thought serve my values? Without this filter, the mind becomes a trap, filling with fears that are imagined, expectations that are unrealistic, and judgments that are unearned. The vigilant person watches their own thinking, not obsessively but responsibly. They are aware that everything begins with thought, actions, feelings, intentions, and that the quality of thought determines the quality of life. This mental discipline also means protecting the mind from pollution, sensationalism, gossip, vanity, comparison. A mind constantly fed by the opinions and noise of the world loses its sense of self. It begins to echo whatever is loudest, rather than reflecting what is true. The person who guards their mind chooses carefully what to read, what to watch, what to dwell on. They understand that just as the body becomes what it consumes, so does the mind. So they feed it with ideas that sharpen it, truths that ground it, and silence that centers it. Clarity is not the absence of complexity. It is the ability to remain focused within it. The world will always present conflicting demands, unpredictable outcomes, and confusing situations. But the clear mind does not collapse into indecision or panic. It finds the signal within the noise. It does not need to know everything in order to act wisely. It simply needs to see what matters most. This kind of clarity is built over time through meditation, through solitude, through the honest pursuit of truth. It is a process of subtracting, not adding, letting go of what clouds judgment and learning to see with precision. Guarding the mind is also about choosing your responses. The mind that is constantly reacting is not in control. It is being pulled. The person who has cultivated mental clarity chooses when to engage, when to withdraw, when to speak, when to be silent. They do not rush to fill every moment with stimulation. They are comfortable with stillness because they are not afraid of their own thoughts. They have faced themselves and made peace with the discipline that comes from awareness. Such a mind becomes a refuge. When the world is unstable, when others lose their grounding, the person who has trained their mind remains steady. Their thoughts do not run wild with fear or fantasy. They return to what is within their control, their judgment, their reason, their action. They see clearly not because they were born with perfect perception, but because they have made the commitment to remove the fog. They value truth more than comfort and clarity more than approval. In every challenge, they return to the mind as their first point of strength, knowing that everything external flows first from what is internal. So guard your mind like a sacred flame. Feed it with truth, shield it from falsehood, and steady it in silence. Let your thoughts be deliberate, your focus undistracted, your judgments clear. For in the storm of life, when all else is uncertain, it is the clarity of your mind that will keep you upright. A disciplined mind is not only your greatest defense, it is your greatest freedom. Nurture it, sharpen it, and let it lead you calmly and fiercely through whatever comes.